Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to the fourth episode of the series GST in Pictures. Now, we are growing in the subject of GST. We have learned a lot of concepts. In the last session, we covered the concept of place of supply. In this particular session, we are going to cover yet another very, very important and critical concept of time of supply. As I understand, this concept of time of supply is not easy to understand in one going, but I have made a very serious attempt to make it as simple as possible with the help of clear-cut examples so that all my viewers who watch this entire episode will benefit and surely understand this concept of time of supply. So let's begin our journey of this particular episode. Now, what are the topics that we are going to cover in this particular session? We are going to cover mainly meaning of time of supply, importance of time of supply, meaning and examples of time of supply of goods and services, and time of supply of vouchers and other items. Let's get into the concept of meaning of time of supply. See, as the name suggests, time. Why do we need to understand the concept of time? Now, when I'm saying time, under the concept of time of supply, I'm not talking about 10:30. I'm not talking about 11:45. I'm not talking about 6:30 p.m. Time basically means on which day can the SSC treat such an item as supplied. So the word supplied becomes very, very important. Means the point in time when goods or services are considered as supplied. Now the meaning of supply is a much, much bigger concept than just the meaning of sale. So time of supply means when can the SSC or the business person treat the goods or services as supplied or transferred. So when the seller knows the time, it helps him to identify the due date of payment of taxes. So time of supply is going to help us understand when is the due date of as far as payment of taxes on such a supply is concerned. So time over here doesn't mean that 24 hours time. We are talking about which day can this transaction be treated as a supply. Let's understand in detail. So importance of time of supply. So as mentioned earlier, we will have to find out or identify the due date of payment of taxes. Now we have two schemes of registration under GST. First one is the normal scheme and second one is called as the composition scheme. So when we are saying normal scheme, definitely the transactions are more. And since the transactions are more, as per the GST law, the returns are to be filed. The recipient has to file returns on monthly basis. That is on within the 15th of next month. If I say, if you are talking about the transactions for the month of June 2021, the supplier has to file returns by, you can say, 15th of July. For transactions of the month of May, it was 15th of June. For transactions for the month of February, it was 15th of March. So 15th of the next month is the due date for filing returns as far as normal scheme is concerned. Now, when you talk about, say, composition scheme, the number of transactions are comparatively less. The supplier who is registered under composition scheme section 10 is not supposed to collect GST from its customers, but he is liable to pay GST on his transactions based on different rates that are available as per section 10. Now, when should a composite dealer file returns? He can file returns on quarterly basis, and 18th day of the next quarter will be the due date of filing his return. So under composition scheme, that is which is covered under section 10, the supplier has to file returns on quarterly basis. That is 18th day of the next quarter. Under normal scheme, the transactions are more. So as per the law, there should not be too much burden on the supplier. So 15th day of the next month, monthly basis, the SSC has to file returns. Whereas in case of composition scheme, quarterly returns are to be filed. That is once in 3 months. And quarterly returns can be filed on the 18th day of the next quarter. So 18th day of the next quarter is the due date within which quarterly returns under composition scheme has to be filed. So if we have to file such returns, whether under normal scheme or whether under composition scheme, we have to identify which is the due date for payment of taxes. And that will be understood through the concept of time of supply. So time of supply is a critical aspect, or you can say one of the foundational aspects of this concept of GST law. Moving further, now this concept of time of supply can be understood in three modes. First is in relation to goods, second in relation to services, and third, very interesting, in relation to reverse charge. So let's understand the concept of time of supply in relation to goods, then we'll take in relation to services, then we'll talk about in relation to reverse charge. Now, in case of goods, rules for identifying the time of supply of goods. Now, quite a few ideas we have, and we say concepts we have. The earliest date among the given criteria will be the time of supply as far as goods is concerned. Our focus right now is on goods. So let's understand this. Which are the dates now? We have the date of issue of invoice. So when the supplier is issuing an invoice, that date is one of the criteria as far as time of supply is concerned. Second is last date on which invoice should be issued. Now there is some confusion as far as this particular term is concerned. What do you mean by last date? See, in simple we say the date on which the goods are supplied, that date is called as the last date on which invoice should be issued. So understand this. So date of supply of goods will be taken as the last date. And finally we have as far as payment is concerned, that is date of receipt of advance or payment. Now, very important point that we need to understand as far as this concept of advance is concerned. GST rule very clearly specifies that GST is not applicable on the advances received in the case of goods. So if we are talking about goods, this concept of advance which is recorded over here, on this advance, GST is not applicable. This is exclusively a rule for goods only. In case of services, on advances in case of services, it is GST-able, you can say. Now we have three criteria here: date of issue of invoice, last date on which invoice should be issued, that is nothing but the date of supply of goods, and we have the date of receipt of payment, you can say. Since advances is not considered, we can take it as the receipt. When has the business received the money? So among the three dates, whichever is the earliest date, that will be considered as time of supply of goods. Let's understand that with the help of three examples. First one we will take. Mr. X sold goods to Mr. Y worth rupees 2,50,000. The invoice was issued on 15th of June. The payment was received on 30th of June. The goods were supplied on 20th of June. So we have simple points given. Let's understand. How will you understand? This is solution. Time of supply is the earliest of. The date of issue of invoice, that is 15th of June as given. Second, we talk about the last date on which the invoice has to be issued. So definitely it is a supply date. Supply date is 20th of June. That is goods were supplied on 20th June. So last date on which invoice should be issued is 20th of June. And the last criteria is date of receipt of payment, which is 30th June. So we have 15th June, 20th June, and 30th June. So among the three dates, whichever is earlier, so 15th June will be the time of supply as far as this transaction is concerned. Because invoice is issued much earlier than the, what you can say, the goods supply as well as receipt of payment. Let's move to the second example. A sold goods to B worth rupees 50,000. The invoice was issued on 13th of May. The payment was received on 14th of May. And the goods were supplied on 12th of May. So goods were supplied on 12th of May. Invoice was received on the next day. And on the third day, that is 14th of May, the payment was received. So how would you find out the time of supply? Again, it will be the earliest of the three dates. So date of issue of invoice is 13th of May. Then the goods were supplied on 12th of May. That is last date on which the invoice should be issued is 12th of May. and payment was received on 14th of May. So date of receipt of payment. So among the three dates, 12th of May will be the time of supply. So two examples right now. Let's move to another example where I include advance as well. If advance is received, how will the scene change? Or what criteria, extra criteria do we consider? Let's understand. Mr. P sold goods to Mr. Q worth rupees 1,50,000. Advance of rupees 20,000 was received on 23rd of April. So advance means definitely before the invoice is issued. Any amount received before supply, before invoice is received, invoice given, that is called as advance amount. The goods were supplied on 27th of April and the invoice was issued on 29th of April. So 20,000 was received in advance. The balance of payment, balance is 1,30,000. 1,50,000 minus advance, 1,30,000. That was received on 1st of May. So how would you analyze and find the time of supply? So again, we take the earliest date is the earliest of. One is date of receipt of advance. So advance was received on 23rd of April. So I record that date. Then we talk about date of issue of invoice, which is 29th of April, and the date on which the goods were supplied. That is the last date, as we say, on which invoice should be issued. That is 27th of April. Now, when I'm drawing a comparison as far as advance is concerned, among the three, whichever is the earliest. So make a note of that. As far as advance is concerned, 23rd of April will be the time of supply. Also, we are given another point saying that the balance of payment, that is 1,30,000, was received on 1st of May. So date of receipt of balance of payment, 1,30,000, that is 1st of May. Now, when I'm calculating the time of supply as far as advance is concerned, among the first three, that is 1, 2, and 3, 23rd April, 29th April, or 27th of April, among the whichever is the earliest, that will be the time of supply for advance. So 23rd April is the earliest date. So that will be taken as the time of supply as far as advance is concerned. But when it comes to the balance of payment, leaving out advance, 29th of April, 27th of April, and 1st of May. So as far as balance of payment is concerned, the earliest date is 27th of April. So time of supply for balance amount of 1,30,000 will be 27th of April. So this is about the concept of time of supply as far as goods are concerned. So once again, understand very critically, it is very important that we understand this concept very, very clearly. So either date of issue of invoice, last date on which invoice should be issued, that is basically nothing but the date of supply of goods, and date of receipt of payment. Advances are not GST-able. That is the rule, not from last year, but from 2017 November itself. So these are a few examples that we have understood. So you can refer back. And definitely, as I've been mentioning, you can comment if you have certain issues, feel free to connect with me. Now, as far as advance is concerned, so we will be having two dates. One time of supply would be for advance, another one will be for the balance of payment. So I hope the concept of time of supply of goods is clear. Let's move to the next concept of time of supply of services. Another very interesting thing. Now we have something add on or something extra that we have. So earliest date among the given criteria will be the time of supply as far as services are concerned. Which are those dates? Date of issue of invoice, which was common as we had in case of services. Next, we have date of receipt of advance or payment. That also was there, but that was the third criteria. And the next one is date of provision of services. We have to understand this. We have to understand this date of provision of services. Now, very important point, if invoice is not issued within prescribed period. Remember, if invoice is not issued within prescribed, what is this prescribed period? Prescribed period is nothing but 30 days from the date of supply. 30 days from the date of supply. Let's spend a little time on this particular concept. The third criteria is date of provision of services. Now, date of provision of services will be considered only if the invoice is issued beyond 30 days. Only if the invoice is issued beyond 30 days, the invoice is not issued within prescribed period. That means to say, if invoice is issued within 30 days, then this criteria is not available at all. So we will be comparing only these two things. But if the invoice is not issued within 30 days, say invoice is issued after 35 days, after 40 days, at that time, this third criteria will also be available for comparison and identifying the time of supply is concerned. So let's be very, very clear. So this third criteria, date of providing services, will come only if the invoice is issued after 30 days. It is not issued within prescribed period, means within 30 days, if it is issued, it will not come. If it is issued after 30 days, date of provision of services, if invoice is issued after 30 days of providing services, you will have this third criteria for comparison. So as I mentioned earlier, GST is applicable on the advances received in the case of services. So let's look at two clear-cut examples of the time of supply of services to understand. Mr. A supplied services worth rupees 40,000 to Mr. B on 10th of June. The invoice was issued on 20th of June. So understand, services were given on 10th of June and invoice was issued on 20th of June, meaning to say the invoice was issued within 30 days of providing service. So when we say within 30 days of providing services, there is no third criteria at all for comparison. Then we have the payment was received on 1st of July. Let's understand the solutions. Time of supply is the earliest of the date of issue of invoice, which is 20th of June, and the date of receipt of payment, 1st of July. So among the two, whichever is the earliest. So 20th of June is the earliest in comparison to 1st of July. That will be the time of supply. So as I mentioned, if the invoice is issued within 30 days from the date of providing service, the date of providing service does not become a criteria for comparison in case of time of supply of services. But if the invoice is issued after 30 days from the date of supplying of services, then we have the third criteria, that is the date of providing service. We'll understand that. So criteria is simple as mentioned. So date of providing services is not considered because invoice is issued within 30 days from the date of provision of services. If the invoice is issued after 30 days, then you will have the third criteria, that is the date of providing service, which you'll understand in the second example. Mr. X supplied services to Mr. Y worth rupees 1 lakh on 11th of March. The invoice was issued on 12th of April and the payment was received on 24th of March. So first thing we will have to check, when was the service given and when was the invoice issued? Services were given on 11th of March. Invoice was issued on 12th of April. Let's count the number of days. 11th of March, if I exclude, we remain with 20 days in the month of March. 20 days in the month of March. Yes. So 31 minus 11, 20 days in the month of March plus 12 days in the month of April, because invoice was issued on 12th of April. So it is 32 days. And since the invoice is issued after 30 days from the date of providing service, the date of providing service will also be considered to find the time of supply. So time of supply is the earliest of date of providing service, that is 11th of March. Then the date of issue of invoice, which is 12th of April, and the date of receipt of payment, which is 24th of March. So let's draw a comparison over here. Here we have not taken this 10th of June at all because the invoice was issued within 30 days. The third criteria, date of providing service, will come only if the invoice is issued after 30 days from the date of providing service, which is there in this particular example. So this works out to around 32 days. So date of receipt of payment is 24th of March as given. So time of supply will be the earliest date, 11th of March. So here, date of providing service is considered because invoice is issued after 30 days from 11th March to 12th April. It is more than 30 days. So this date of providing service is considered and that will become the time of supply. I hope this concept of time of supply of services is very, very clear. So when is the invoice issued in comparison to the date of providing service? If it is issued after 30 days, we will have three criteria, including the date of providing service. But if the invoice is issued within 30 days from the date of providing service, then we'll have only two criteria, that is date of issue of invoice and date of receipt of payment, as we have in the first example. So I hope the concept of supply of services is clear. Let's move to the next one. This is time of supply for service receiver or recipient under reverse charge. We already know what is the meaning of reverse charge. Reverse charge is basically, if you look at GST law in specific, it is always the supplier who is supposed to pay GST to the government, central government and or state government or both, depending upon IGST, CGST, SGST or UTGST. Now, when the supplier is unregistered, when we have imported goods from a foreign country, in case of a composition dealer, we are going to apply what is called reverse charge. And here, the recipient of goods or services is liable to pay GST to the government. Such a payment which has to be done by the recipient is known as reverse charge mechanism. So let's understand this concept of reverse charge when it comes to goods. So understand this concept, we are talking exclusively about goods only. So earliest date among the given criteria is the time of supply of goods under reverse charge. So our focus is on goods. Which are the criteria? We have just two criteria. One is the date of receipt of goods. That is the first criteria. And the second criteria that we have is 30 days from the date of issue of invoice for goods. 30 days from the date of issue of invoice for goods. Now, suppose if it is not possible, if the date of receipt of goods is not given, so definitely you won't be able to calculate, even 30 days from the date of issue of invoice for goods. If date of invoice, issuing invoice is not given, you cannot count 30 days. In that case, we will, if it is not possible to determine the time of supply, so time of supply will be the date of entry in the books of the recipient. So this criteria will come into being only in the when we take these two, if you are not able to. Let's understand an example. So reverse charge, time of supply of goods. Date of receipt of goods is 13th of April 21. The supplier issued an invoice on 11th of April 2021. And the date of entry in the books of accounts was on 12th of April 2021. So simple point, how would you consider? One is the earliest of the receipt of goods. So date of receipt of goods is 13th of April. Then we take 30 days from the date of issue of invoice. So 11th of April means 19 days of April and 20 days of April and 10 days of May. So 10th of May. Or 11th of May, you can consider as the completion of 30 days from the date of issue of invoice. And we have the books of accounts, entry was made on 12th of April. So the earliest date among the three criteria is 12th of April. So 12th of April is the date of entry in the books, that is 12th of April. So let's understand this particular concept. The earliest of the three dates will be considered as time of supply of goods. Let's move to time of supply for service receiver under reverse charge. Now we are talking about services. Time of supply of services under reverse charge. Again, its earliest date. We will have 2+1 criteria here as well. So the first criteria will be the date of payment. When is the recipient making the payment to the supplier? Second criteria is we had 30 days in case of reverse charge, time of supply of goods under reverse charge. In case of services, it is 60 days from the date of issue of invoice for services. So remember, in case of reverse charge, it is 30 days for goods and 60 days from the date of issue of invoice for services. And as usual, if it's not possible to determine the time of supply, then it will be the date of entry in the books of the recipient. So that will be the date considered. So date of payment, there is a slight change. It was date of receipt of goods as far as goods is concerned under reverse charge. Here it's date of payment. So let's not get confused. And 60 days is the criteria. If it's not possible, then date of entry will be taken into account. Now reverse charge. Let's understand with the help of an example. Time of supply of services. Messrs XYZ Limited undertook the services of a director, Mr. Azad, worth rupees 75,000. So Mr. Azad was paid rupees 75,000. His services were taken on 20th of February. The invoice was raised on 1st of March. So 60 days from the date of issue of invoice, remember. Messrs XYZ Limited made the payment on 21st of April. So payment was made on 21st of April and date of entry in the books of Messrs XYZ was 23rd of April. So let's look at the criteria. Whichever is earlier, that will be considered. So first one would be date of payment. So date of payment is 21st of April. Date of payment is 21st of April. Remember, we are not talking about date of providing service. 60 days from the date of issue of invoice. So it's 1st of March, invoice was issued, count 60 days. So 30 days of March and 30 days of April. So 60 days will be completed on 30th of April. So 60 days from the date of issue of invoice. That will be taken as another criteria. And next is date of entry in the books, that is 23rd of April. So among the 3 days, whichever is the earlier. So 21st April will be the time of supply. So let's understand. We talk about the date of payment in case of reverse charge, supply of services. Whereas in case of goods, we talk about, that is as far as reverse charge, as far as goods is concerned, we talk about the date of receipt of goods. So here it is receipt of goods, but here we talk about, the date of payment as far as services are concerned under reverse charge. So it's date of payment in case of services, date of receipt as far as goods are concerned. There it is 30 days, here it is 60 days. Okay, coming on to the last concept, and that is, what about the time of supply of vouchers and other items? Now, what is a voucher? When you go to a shop, when you purchase a certain item, the shopkeeper or the supplier is going to give you a voucher, which you need to encash within a certain period of time. You can encash it immediately as well. That depends on the terms and conditions. This is more so for enhancement of business or to increase the sales of the supplier, you can say. Now, as far as vouchers are concerned, there are two criteria. When a voucher is made available and the supply is identifiable, the time of supply will be the date of the issue of voucher. When the supplier is giving a voucher to the recipient, that will be the time of supply. So if the supply is identifiable, let's take an example. Business gives a gift voucher worth rupees 1,000 for the purchase of rice cooker. And this gift voucher was given on the original purchase of 72-inch color television. So we have purchased a 72-inch color television and we get a gift voucher worth rupees 1,000, which we can convert and buy a rice cooker as well. The rice cooker may cost a little more than 1,000 rupees. So whatever is the difference amount, we will have to pay. Now we very clearly check this gift voucher is applicable for the purchase of rice cooker only. So the supply, as far as gift voucher is concerned, is identifiable. Since the supply is identifiable, the date on which this gift voucher is made available, that will be taken as the time of supply. So time of supply will be the date of issue of this particular voucher. Let's take the second part. Second part is, once again, a voucher, but if the supply is not identifiable, if the supply is not identifiable, the time of supply will be the date of redemption of the voucher. When will we, the recipient of goods, redeem our voucher? Make use of that voucher. Let's be very clear. Now, suppose business is giving a gift voucher worth rupees 500 for the purchase of any item in the store with a validity of 2 months. So a 500 rupees gift voucher is given, validity is 2 months, and the supply is not identifiable. When I say not identifiable, which item we are not clear, means it is purchase of any item in the store. So when the supply is not identifiable, the date on which we, the recipient, redeem the voucher, that will be the time of supply as well as the supplier is concerned. So when we are going to get the voucher and get it redeemed to purchase any item worth 500 or more than 500 from that particular shop, that extra amount, excess amount, we will have to pay. So that amount is considered. So the date of redemption of that voucher will be considered as the time of supply. And the last one we have is, in case we are called upon to pay interest, late fee, or penalty for delayed payment to the supplier, and supplier is going to collect. So important point, the time of supply will be the date on which the supplier receives such amount. So we are supposed to pay interest, we are supposed to pay late fee, we are supposed to pay penalty for making a delay in payment. From the supplier's point of view, he is going to collect. So the date on which he collects or date on which the supplier receives such amount, that would be considered as the time of supply. So this is about the concept of time of supply. That's all we have in this particular session. I understand this is one of the most complicated and technical concept that we have under GST. But I believe I have been very clear in explaining about the time of supply of goods, about services, about reverse charge, that is on goods is concerned, services is concerned, and about vouchers as well. So I would like to thank you for your company and your patient hearing. So once again, you have my email ID, you have my phone number over here. If you would like to connect with me, you can feel free. And as I usually mention, don't forget to subscribe the channel, to share it with all the people you believe are very much in need of this particular subject, and definitely comment as well. So thank you once again.